You ready to rock and roll?
Sure.
I agree. So, welcome to Control Alt Deliberate. Today, I'm excited to sit down with Mark Hunter. He's an IT manager at RenewAire and someone I call an IT Swiss Army knife. He's been working for 25 years in this business, keeping them running smoothly from ERP systems to cloud migrations to cybersecurity. He's the one who shows up when things are broken and leaves them better than he left them. He's also deeply involved in nonprofit work through Maddie's Miracle, a foundation he and his wife started in memory of his daughter. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, John.
So, Mark, you've had a pretty wide-ranging career from support engineers to creatives. How did you first get drawn into the world of IT?
So way back in, as the kids would say, the late 90s, the late 1900s, I was running around trying to figure out what to do. I had gone through 2 years of college at that point, and felt that it was probably something didn't really feel great. I had friends who were getting these jobs for working for this company, doing some phone tech support for America Online. Sounded like a pretty sweet gig. So back in '97, I worked for a company that was basically a phone farm, and you would go in there, you'd get trained up in like 2, 3 days on how to become a perfect tech support person for America Online. But it actually was really great training because at that point in time, there was no such thing as remote viewing machines. There was no remote taking control or anything. And most people had to use their phone lines in order to call us for support. So they couldn't even be connected while we were helping them. So, it was a lot. Every single call was definitely an adventure. But it was a lot of fun. And
Sounds,
then,
one of my first gigs was in an ISP in Cleveland, and very
yeah,
similar. Okay, do you have another phone you can call me from? No, I can't. I'm like, oh,
right.
this will be fun.
Yeah, please don't click connect now. And then you start getting the beeps in your ear and all that fun stuff. So yeah.
And so from there, I mean, was it a pretty easy decision to devote your career to building on that experience?
Yeah, it really was. And then, I segued into doing more hardware support at first, building machines for an ERP vendor, but they also did hardware support on the side for a lot of their clients. And so I kind of worked in their back room and built their machines from scratch. We would do custom build machines and, installing all the software one machine at a time. No cloning at that point either. So
Yep.
working through a lot of that stuff. Then went to school to officially do computer networking. So the trade school in town offered a Cisco class basically, and so we would go to class and learn all sorts of Cisco commands, and then I'd go into work the next day, and that would be what was broken on the router for some reason, and there just lots of weird stuff like
Universe
that.
side.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so as I worked my way up through the ranks, I guess, the network admin side of things, started to do. It was always really network and hardware based at first, and
Yeah.
then you start to then have to pick up everything, right? So it's, the ERP system isn't working, the SQL server is being weird, we need these new reports. And so pretty soon it was literally everything that we had to do. We'd call somebody in, they'd show us how to do it, and then it would kind of become my job. And so
Learning on the job, basically. You're
yeah,
going,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then is that where the Swiss Army knife came into things?
It really was. And then, so like that was probably 4 years as a network admin at this one manufacturing company. And then after that, I spent almost 20 years at a product development firm. So that company was basically a conglomerate of engineers and researchers and people that you would hire to help you do your stuff. And so I ran that whole network and that whole system. So that was then to not only did we have to be nimble and quick and learn new technologies internally with things, but we would also be trying to help our clients do stuff. And so we'd have to figure out how to best support them from those standpoints too. So that was definitely much more Swiss Army knifing at that point. So it's like, oh well, we don't love the features of our current phone system. Well, we just need to throw that out and get a new phone system, and that's got these new opportunities for us. And then
Yeah,
COVID hit, and we found out that nobody even used their desk phones at all anymore. So
right. We don't even have depth.
yeah, exactly. So there's lots of silly stuff with some of that too. And so yeah, just went through a couple ERP implementations through that. At my current job now, we're actively involved in another ERP cut over. They're still running on manufacturing tends to be very slow in the line for new and different technologies.
Yeah, yeah, I get
So
that. We'll hit that in a sec. One last question from the past. I assert you, like me, having to grow up before there was probably even plug and play cards back then. How much do you think understanding like the underlining technology has aided you in your career now that it theoretically things have become easier with AI and plug and play and you name it?
sure. I mean, I guess it's the Apple conundrum. It's easier until it's not, and then
Yeah,
when it's not, if you don't know what you're doing, I mean, the Apple fix for everything is reinstall the operating system. Well, that's a pretty silly fix in my opinion. So I've actually still had to go back into the dredges of my memory to set up COM ports and stuff so that we could communicate with old equipment and things like that. So I still use a lot of that, and a lot of a lot of just networking fundamentals are still around regardless of what high level tool you're using to program the switches or whatnot. You
yeah,
still really need to know what you're doing and why, because now everything's been reduced to a checkbox. And if you don't understand what it is that's happening when you check that, when you click that check box, then it's you can really start to hose yourself.
yeah. Oh, and worse is when the checkbox doesn't work, you need to figure out, oh, ARP is wrong, or obviously I'm routing somewhere that no longer lives, and all the other
Absolutely.
things that.
I just discovered the latest bug in iOS, whatever, and so being able to actually go back to tech support and be like, it's supposed to be happening this way. I understand that. It's totally not. I think we have a bug in
Yeah,
the actual code. That kind of stuff is definitely helpful.
that's why you're Fire Marshal Bill. Uh,
That's right.
so at RenewAire, right? Moving back in, I missed your segue. You were one step ahead of me. So now you're in a company where uptime, business compliance, and kind of resiliency is critical. What makes ERP such a big priority? And again, I think this is a kind of a caveat to all people in IT, right? If you're listening, one business is not equal to the next as far as what their actual priorities, et cetera. But why is ERP at RenewAire such a critical component?
Everything about the way that RenewAire does orders is that they're all customized and unique, basically. So there are over 1 million different options that could be configured on our units, and so
Hmm.
everything is basically spec'd to build. So we have a completely custom front end interface that people will come into to build our units, and then that needs to talk to the order management system, and that needs to then make sure that we have all of the things on hand to build the parts, or we'll order things if we need more, or talk to our purchasing department and let them know what kind of stuff we need to order and by when. There are different departments that are set up for scheduling what needs to be built when, based off of what we have on
Right.
hand, who has all that kind of stuff. It's so complex when it comes down to just all the little things that need to be done and working. And then to top it all off, you had an ERP that got put in place that was top of the line of its day, and
Yeah.
you just keep plugging more things onto it. And so every time you need a new feature, oh well, it doesn't do that. But then there's XYZ company, and they built this one little thing, and that now
Yeah. We
becomes
can.
completely, you must have that now. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually
As a,
it'll get to a point where that now times out, as software, and we need to go to the next new thing. And
yeah.
so the new thing will be better. It'll be great, but it's going to be really hard to implement that.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm always amazed by some of the business where it's like it's just quote to cash and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, if only.
Right.
Uh, you know, if we had 18 products, yes, I would agree with you. It's pretty straightforward. When you've got 1 million permutations, that straightforwardness has been way back there.
Yeah,
If we,
I really wish we had the company that all of the demo teams show us with their ERP,
right?
demonstration, right?
Like a top.
That would be amazing. Like, yeah, here's your one click and everything magically happens. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
yeah, That would be
And so
wonderful.
that's a like a good segue because I have one of my clients right now is the same thing where they kind of built this Rube Goldbergy machine because as business needs X, Y, and Z, and then A and F and G, the parts don't necessarily fit together very well. And you had made a really good point where, something not only times out from a perspective, but you might have a vendor that disappears out of that mix. Like, how do you
Sure.
guys manage that? What's your way of trying to keep that from happening?
The biggest thing is trying to be honest with yourself. So if you have somebody who's trying to raise a red flag, that doesn't mean that it's a red flag, but
Hmm.
we should always be listening to people if they've got ideas as to why a thing is a problem or it's not working. And it's really good to always take an assessment of how things are going and what technologies are we based on. So like let's take a step back here. The whole company is running on Fortran's little code compiler right over here. Well, what happens if we can't have anybody update that anymore? What happens if whatever? Well, we probably can't get anybody to fix that anymore. Or we've again, I think like you said, a vendor goes away. Um, if you built something on top of some guy's really brilliant tiny little project, and they're going to move on and do their next thing,
Yeah.
yeah, you've really opened yourself for exposure there. So trying to analyze those things, be honest about what our risk assessment is on it. Like how much are we willing to take, and do we think that's going to happen? That probably won't. They've actually been really great for us for over 10 years. We're one of their
Yeah.
biggest clients. We keep them afloat. Okay, well, we they're probably just fine to keep working with, but that weird plugin that we got from some dude over in Atlanta, we we
Yeah.
might we might want to look at a different solution for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Clear. And when things don't run smoothly, who feels it most? Finance, operations, customer support?
I mean, all of those, and then it always gets dumped back to IT.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if it runs on the computers, it's ours, even if we don't own it, even if we weren't consulted when it was purchased, even if we, didn't put it in place, we're always ending up having to support the different things. So it's if we have problems with our particular ERP package, truly everything goes down. We can still run on paper if we really really have to. We've done um, some game testing on that, if you will. So if there were big power outages, if there were big problems where the computers are not going to be working for days at a time, we can still limp through enough where we could keep things going, but it would be really painful.
Yeah.
And there would definitely be certain things that we couldn't do, like look orders up for customers and that kind of stuff. Because if that system was down, it's down. We can still build stuff that we know we need to build. We've always got enough in the hopper that we know what the next week or two looks like. So almost that's fine. We can keep building the things. Trying to ship them out the door, that also might be kind of hard if you can't talk to the logistics companies to have them come and pick up your pallets and that kind of stuff for sure.
Yeah. I get that. Um, and I get IT investments are always a balance. How do you make the trade-off between just keeping things running, right? Because there's the whole maintenance side of things, and then there's all the new features or functionality, those new widgets they want added into the system. Like, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think on the hardware side, it's a lot easier because you can say, look, we X years we are recycling, these different things. Every laptop gets recycled after X years. Every switch is only in production for X years. Like that
Yeah.
kind of stuff is easier and much easier to budget for as well. So our accounting team really appreciates that a lot more too. So when it comes to
You
software,
don't have to be like, I need 35 grand for this thing all of a sudden. It's like, wait, what? That's not in the
right?
budget.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the budget, the lovely budget. Yeah, why didn't you consider what was going to happen? So
Uh,
yeah,
you and your
um,
silly crystal ball that clearly failed us.
exactly. Yep. I mean that was always my joke because I was like, every single person who was asked in 1999 about where they were going to be in 5 years was wrong. Every
Yeah.
single one. So So like sometimes there's that, but
I
um,
used did EOS implementation and they want a 10-year picture. I'm like, I don't think any business even does 5 years is hard.
sure,
3 years is probably a better picture.
yeah,
Like we
yeah,
might be able to be somewhat accurate at 3 years.
absolutely.
I, I mean, look, the finance guys want that information down to the penny, and it's like, I'll do my best, friend. But I mean,
Exactly. Because again,
let's
that's their job function. That's what they are trying to do. And I respect that completely. There's just, there's times where I always have to preface with, this is just our best guess. And that's
yeah.
really the best we can do.
Well, it's funny you used to talk about the demos. I imagine they're like, well, but we want a spreadsheet that you create every time that is perfectly dead on accurate. I'm like, I get it. As soon as those demos work the way they say, you'll get the
Right.
spreadsheet the way we say.
That's fair. That should be what we attach our our outputs to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
This is why it didn't work. All right, so let's fast forward a couple years, right? 2, 3 years, and like we talked about, we're not going to go into the 5, 10 year range. What do you think are the obstacles, opportunities that you guys, and again, I have always looked at it, and it sounds like you're cut from the same cloth. IT's job is to add value to the business and help obviously either create top line or reduce bottom line costs and streamline things. What's that look like for you guys, do you think? I mean, is it getting the ERP done? What are the big things that are in over the next couple of years?
Yeah, for us, the our next biggest thing will be putting our new ERP in place, and then building some of the custom interfaces that our clients have always used
Expect.
yeah, so to work with the system, and then that's going to help us probably just do things more efficiently and better from that standpoint. Because again, depending on how your company uses ERP, it can be kind of isolated or it can be all encompassing. So some ERPs are also your CRM. Sometimes it's better just to have those things separate. So there's different aspects from that. RenewAire is owned by a Spanish firm. We have been for many years, and so we're wholly integrated with their IT as well. And so, so for us, um, we're not quite as nimble as an F-16, where it's more like steering the Titanic. We have to work with corporate when it comes to what kind of technologies they want to push out and when. But they're very security focused. So, zero trust is really our biggest focus on just about everything,
Yeah.
which can be really hard with old ERP systems,
Yes.
that didn't really understand what security was at all.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and have a lot of assumptive security to your point built in because it's like, well, of course you're behind the firewall. That's all you need, right? Well, yeah,
yeah,
maybe 15 years ago you're right. Nowadays,
exactly.
much.
Yeah, not, exactly, not at all. So, yeah, I feel like for us, our next few things are trying to see, everybody's worried about AI, and that's its own funny little thing. And while I don't feel like AI is a sky is falling kind of technology that's going to come in and take everybody's jobs, but I do feel like it's a new tool that if you don't learn how to harness it, it will mean that you won't be viable for a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
So, you can it's just kind of like the old people who were working on their typewriters didn't want to even think about these word perfect machines or whatever.
Right.
What's this computer thing? Like that's silly. I can type so fast over here and I make no mistakes. And
Right.
so, I mean, I think that AI is the next tool. There are certainly some things that it can do that are going to be amazing. There are some things that are completely overhyped.
Yeah.
But I think as a tool, if you ignore it, you will fall behind. So that will be
100%. I mean, to me, it's like a power saw didn't preclude carpenters from still needing to be carpenters. It just
exactly.
made wood a lot faster. I mean, same thing. I laugh when people are like, AI coding, vibe coding is a thing. I'm like, it is. But as a developer, I've also used it, and it's got some serious flaws. Now, will
Sure.
that change? I mean, if the rate of change right now happens in another 2 years, what that's going to look like? Yeah, it's going to go a lot better. But I still assert it's going to just make developers faster. It's not going to be replacing any of us. So I get, and to your point, for me, it's like, how do we plug this in to not only a value, but also reduce the risks of another security place where it's telling our customers financial data because somehow somebody hooked that up to it and now they can go figure out what their competitors get from us and get a better rate. God, God only knows what.
Yeah.
So what do you think are the biggest roadblocks? Talent, budget, the vendors you choose, something else?
I mean, like company to company, it kind of depends on who's helming the ship and what they believe in for where budgets need to be allocated, right? So sometimes you've got unlimited resources and people who understand that you've got to spend to earn, but that's not everybody's situation. Sometimes you've got very mature companies that are making their few percentages every year, and so they understand that they need to do things in a slower way. Budgets are always a big part of it. Everyone wants to go to the cloud fully, and it's like, okay, but spin up a supercomputer in Azure and tell me how much that costs you a month, and then come back to me and tell me how much you want to have everything in the cloud. So there are certainly there are costs associated with all that kind of stuff. So I think that's at the end of the day, budgets seem to be they trump everything else. You can have great talent, but if you can't give them their tools, then they're just great talent.
Yeah, totally get that, and totally aligned with the cloud one. Always kills me because I was the first guy to be like, "Oh, we'll all be in the cloud," and then their prices started going up, and I'm like, maybe not so much anymore. Not for
Right?
everybody.
Yeah, that free tier of Azure, we burned through that real quick.
Yeah. So, last question in IT space, right? If you were to give advice to somebody who's just starting out in IT, what would it be?
I think I think the security thing is kind of played out from the you can go and take a couple boot camps and you're gonna be making $500,000 a year kind of thing. That I mean that's come and gone. We need security. I just don't know if that's where you go to try to break into stuff anymore. I'm a firm believer that a lot of the things that get outsourced are things that aren't in the trade level, right? So learn to do networking, learn to do hardware, learn to do that kind of stuff, because you can't outsource that. AI can't replace slapping a new switch in the rack,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So I think that that's always such a great thing to start with, and then you also learn all the fundamentals of everything else that you could build upon to do other things. You want to then go a CIO route, you want to go security, you want to sit in a SOC all day, whatever. That's fine. But if you truly understand how networking works, you're going to have a better way of understanding why security is important and why certain things operate at different levels of the OSI, all that stuff. Like that's
Yeah.
all kind of I don't know if they're teaching that as much anymore. If you're going to a boot camp, or you're just going to a network plus class or something that's going to teach you how to take the test, that's not necessarily the same thing as truly learning your basic networking skills.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Yeah. And I'm also, just to add to that, try like the doctors do. Do a little networking, do a little hardware, do a little scripting, figure out what you love. And then if
Yeah,
you start
100%.
doing, the money will come. I don't know about the 500,000. That might
Right,
that
right.
might to get to build up the skill, but
That's right. That's right.
don't any of that boys and girls out there who think that they can just turn that key. Put in the work.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you again for joining us. Really great conversation. Enjoyed hearing your story and your vision for IT, and really look forward to seeing what you and the Renew team do here in the next couple months to get this ERP project out the door, and then what's next.
That's great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.